MG, we are back for take two, believe it or not. So
And it's a very big tape too. We
yeah.
Yeah, well, you can tell everyone what happened.
We had the potty, we recorded it a couple of days ago, and it's always difficult to get all three of us together with Scotty because of the time difference. And obviously, you working a lot face to face, so it's been really difficult. So we had it locked in, we're on the potty, we're recording it. I was telling you boys that I got a new laptop and you're like, oh, it looks clear. Yeah, you look clear. And I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, it runs so much faster. It's awesome. We got to probably the last 5 minutes and then my screen went black. And I was like, I can still hear them. Maybe it went to sleep. So I started like pushing enter and the mouse to see if it would wake up. And all I heard was you talking and then it went, and it
yeah.
just died.
That's the danger sound, man. That's the
I
one
was
you
like,
don't want to hear.
oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, so we lost it. We lost the
And it
potty.
was funny because we recorded it. It was here, right? It was Tuesday night, and
Mhm.
we started at say what 9 p.m. and it was after 10 p.m. we were going, and it'd been a big day. And I sent me a message on the way home. I'm like, oh, it was one of our best episodes. Like it was just good questions. And of course, I probably jinxed it, man, that we weren't able to recover it. But anyway, we'll
Yeah.
endeavour to get it as good. I think it's probably good. We had a couple of days break. We didn't go straight back in and record it again.
No.
Had a few days to freshen up. It's much earlier in the afternoon. What are we? 4 p.m. on a Friday now, which is just so not normal podcast time for us. But
No.
it's going to be okay, bro.
It's going to be good. So if you're listening to this right now, it means we've made it to the end.
Yeah, we got it.
Laptop didn't die and I uploaded it. So so we're good. But I'm on my old laptop. The other one, anyways, let's not get into it. So we didn't have you on the last one, right?
Right.
So now we don't have Scotty this second take two, but we've got you back. So give us an update. What's going on? I know you had a scan today with me, so give us a bit of an update.
Yeah, everything's good, man. So yeah, last week I missed. Just we've kind of been juggling and trying to sort calendars with me being on maternity leave now. So just a few extra face-to-face sessions and just having Bree, one of my staff, go back to uni to finish a dietetics degree, which threw a few spanners in the work with timing and that, but we got there. And I did mention on our first take of this that we had interviewed someone for a position here, someone who you know and is very dear to us. And now that 3 days have passed, I don't have to kind of be quiet about it anymore because we've given Matty Papa a job, which is amazing. So he'll be starting here with us on Tuesday, which is going to take a lot of pressure off and definitely be a big assistance when Meave and I finally have our little girl, which is exciting. But yeah, 38 weeks. We had a scan today. Everything's great. She's where she needs to be. Looks like she's likely to be a big girl. So we can't wait to meet her, man. Can't wait to meet her. She's due in 2 weeks, and yeah, Meve's been a trooper. I feel sorry for her. She's a little bit of hip pain, a little bit of back pain, and we're getting towards the finish line. So
Well, a couple of things. So congrats to Matty Pat. Absolutely amazing human athlete, and he's gonna thrive being a coach. So yeah, I can't wait for him to get stuck into it too. So it's going to be absolutely amazing. Congratulations to him. A valuable person to have on your team for sure.
yeah, well, you were running some of your sessions here at mine this morning, and he was working already. So
Yeah, yeah, he's amazing. He's awesome. And on that, so I got a missed call from you about 5:30 this morning, and because I was going to see you today, right? And then I got this missed call, and I had my phone on Do Not Disturb. So when I woke up, I was like, 5:30 from MG. What going on? I better message him to see if everything's right. My first thought was they had the baby last night, and he's calling me to say, "Hey, bro, guess what? I won't be in today because I had the baby
yeah,
last night."
that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? No, I just pocket dialed you at 5 a.m. I was coaching Helen, and I was just pumped, and my fat fingers just grabbed my phone, and then afterwards I realized I'm like, oh shit, I hope it didn't ring, but I thought hopefully he's got it on Do Not Disturb. So
Yeah. Oh, anyways, I'm
anyway,
anticipating.
that phone call is probably not too far away, man.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely anticipating it for sure. Yeah, cannot wait, man. Cannot wait. You were saying something about you get a 3D scan. Have you gotten a 3D scan recently?
yes, so we've already had the 3D scan. The imagery is amazing, man. I might have
Yeah.
posted a photo on my story a little while ago, but you can see all of the facial features in detail. We had a scan today, and on the scan you can see her poking her tongue out and moving her lips like as if she was like suckling a bottle and
Yeah.
blowing bubbles. You could see the bubbles on the scan.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
man,
awesome.
it's phenomenal. So yeah,
And you've
I'm
got it,
so eager.
and you've got a little gift that you put up in the thumbnail.
Yeah, so this is amazing, man. This was a beautiful surprise. So for those watching on YouTube, you can see there. So this is from Paula, who's one of our listeners from Darwin, who I met at a competition earlier, actually last year, who I think made you a hat as well, which is beautiful.
She
But
did.
sent this beautiful card through and got this printed, which is just a little newborn suit that says "Intensity creates density" with a little pink love heart, which is so thoughtful. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time and the effort to go and get that made. I will definitely have a future episode with her on screen wearing this.
Yeah. Yeah, that
We'll,
was so
we'll
thoughtful.
get the baby as I almost said her name. Then I've got to be careful. We'll get the we'll get the baby on screen as a thumbnail. So
Yeah,
yeah,
don't slip
very
that
very
ball.
thoughtful. We've got some beautiful listeners.
Yeah, no, we are very, very lucky. We got some good questions that were scenarios. So it'll be good because, we mentioned on a prior podcast, I think it was with Scotty, that it's great to get questions, but we always love a bit more context. So it was good that now we're getting a little bit more context in our questions. Obviously, they're not essays, which is great because it'll be hard to read through them all, but we've got some good ones. I'm going to start off with some federation stuff. First one is about ICN Gym Model category and our thoughts on that. So obviously that came out, I think it was about a week or two ago, and
Yep,
it caused quite of a stir on social media.
it did.
And this question asks, what's our honest opinion? Do you think it's revenue raising? Is it basically a modeling category, not a bodybuilding category? And do you think it lowers the standards so that it can be inclusive when the sport is not for everyone? So if I try to talk factual for 1 second before I get into opinions, is it revenue raising? It's going to raise revenue, of course. It's a new category. People are going to register. Their money's going to come in. So it is revenue raising. I don't think it is the primary purpose and the reason why they implemented it, but it's definitely going to raise revenue. That's a fact. Is it a modeling category over a bodybuilding category? Yep, most definitely. For sure it is. Does that hold a place in a bodybuilding show? That's up to opinion. It looks like the feedback online is it shouldn't. And I actually agree with it, to be honest. But again, this is an opinion and they're a business, they're a company, and they choose to decide which direction they want to go. And maybe this is a business decision and they want to move in that direction, which is perfectly fine and fair enough. I think the biggest thing for me that was a surprise is that not all states took it on and not all states agreed with it. There was actually some states where the president came out on their social media story doing a video saying we will not be implementing this. This is not what we believe should be in a bodybuilding show, and it's not going to happen. And then we saw some states that just didn't even entertain it whatsoever. There was no post whatsoever. And then we had another state that put it up, and then a couple of days later said, we've heard all your concerns and we're not going to do it either. So I think out of all the states, only two are going to continue with it. That's Victoria and Queensland. I think that was more, I don't know if I want to use the word concerning or surprising, is that if it's a federation, you would think maybe that they would all be united and make a collective decision of what they all want to do. But also not surprised that maybe this has happened for ICN because, as we've spoken in the past, especially with judging, we do see that different states have different judging and different looks. And then when it comes to nationals, we sometimes don't know what we're going to get. And we've been open and honest with Tony about that. I've mentioned to him plenty of times about this. So, and I think that's just the lay of the land. I think we all just need to accept it that every state's going to have some differences for that specific federation. And this is just another case of that happening too. Other federations like an IFBB or an NBA where they have, the one head judge, the one, president that looks after everything and manages everything so that they can have that consistency nationwide. For me, that's something that I like a little bit better because I know what I'm going to get. And also when I have people in different states, I know how to, peak them for a certain category, select a certain category. And then when we go to nationals, we kind of know what we're going to expect from a consistency standpoint. So that's where I kind of sit with it. I think the overwhelming opinion online I tend to agree with. So this year's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I don't know whether this is going to be something that's going to be held at a nationals. I know in season A for ICN, there's a nationals in New South Wales, but it's more of a New South Wales run show. So I'm assuming that they're not going to have it there. But if they continue on in season B with running this category and the nationals is run in Victoria, will it be at the nationals in Victoria? And how will it be judged if not all the states are running it? So that's going to be interesting. What do you think, MG?
Well, man, we could dissect this for so long. I'll try and keep it short. I want to start by saying I think to address the first question, think about what we know about. Let's just use Tony and ICN Victoria. I think this decision didn't come from a place of. I don't think the starting conversation for this is like, how can we bump up revenue? Personally, knowing Tony and knowing how much he loves the athletes and seeing people compete, I think this would have started from a place of how can we get more people who probably couldn't normally compete into the sport to feel more inclusive. I think that's where this started. Sure, it means that you're probably going to get new competitors that previously wouldn't have competed, but I think it came from a good place. I think it came from a place of wanting to have more people involved and people that normally wouldn't get the opportunity to stand on stage to stand on stage. So that's what I want to say first. I think the biggest issue they have, more so than the actual division, I'll get to the division in a second. I think the biggest issue from how it looked online is the lack of uniformity across the country. I think that didn't look good at all. Having, like you said, different states literally jump onto their socials really quickly and be like, well, we're not part of this. It's got nothing to do with us. It makes us, as coaches and athletes, sit back and go, well, what happened in the back end from a conversation perspective that it got to a point where you decided, yeah, we're going to do it, you're not going to do it, because it almost looks like you're butting heads. Like, what was the end result of that national meeting where, half decided they'd do it and half didn't? Because, for me, if I was running it, it was like, all right, you're all doing it or you're all not doing it. That would have been the smart move. And if you all did it, you all stick to your guns, backlash or no backlash, you try it. And if it doesn't work, you move it on. That would have been a better outcome. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a bit of a concern. And, as you've mentioned too, what does that look like at a national level? Lots of questions are raised. No one's got answers, and I'm not sure they have the answers yet either. So that's a little concerning. But, they need to probably come out and address what's going to happen there. From a divisional perspective, I think we are starting to get a little bit away from what we are as a sport. It's certainly not something that I think I'd be encouraging any of my athletes to compete in, because, when you're talking about, wearing active wear, full suits, leggings, all of a sudden the ability to judge is just getting really, really, really difficult. And as a coach, I wouldn't be confident putting someone in there because I wouldn't be sure, what if a great physique stood next to someone who had leggings and your athlete had shorts, because you can wear both, and, the winner wasn't picked really clearly. I just wouldn't want to put any of my athletes in that position. So I don't think the division's a good division. I think the public has spoken out and agreed very clearly. And I think if it's going to run, I think they need to come out and just answer some questions about what they're going to do at shows where multiple states are there, but not every state has the division. Is it just off? What happens if I win the overall in Vic and then I want to go to nationals, but you're not running it at nationals? That sucks for me. If I'm the winner of gym model in Vic, you don't run it at nationals. Mm-hmm. Like, well, why did you run it if I don't have the opportunity to take it to a national level? So I think they need to go back to the drawing board and just come out and either all run it or no one run it.
Yeah. It's funny. I had someone tell me, Michael, have you ever seen those models where they insert those glutes into their leggings when they do photo shoots? Just like, what if someone rocks up on stage and puts like fake inserted glutes in their leggings? You can't tell. Like, you literally can't tell. And if they've got a bodysuit on, a one piece, what if they wear a slim tum underneath and they're sucking? Like, what are they going to do? Poke everyone's bum before they go on stage to see if it's real or not? Like, what are they going to do, right? So,
yeah, like that's. I wonder if that ever came up. Like, that's a good question.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting year this year, to say the least. All right. So the other question or opinion that we had about a different federation was for NBA and about spreading out the divisions, because they found that there was too much wait time between their subcategories. So NBA was running a running order where they would kind of change between, say, bikini and fitness, right? and they kind of run one of the subdivisions and the other subdivision of the other one, and vice versa, vice versa, vice versa. And they've gotten some feedback, or this person gave some feedback to say, you know, it just took a little bit too long. I was there for too long, and it'd be better if it could be shortened. Now, I know that feedback's actually been given to Stewie because I've spoken to Stewie too, and they're going to run a traditional running order this year. So go back to, you know, all bikini, then all of fitness, then all of whatever. So you basically, your division is comes out all at one time, and all your subcategories are pretty much back to back. Now, look, if you are at a nationals and you win a pro card and you win it in the morning and the pro shows at night, you have to wait. It's just the way it is. That's traditionally how pro shows are run. So there's going to be give and take in everything. You can't really accommodate every scenario, but I know that NBA is definitely taking that on board, and they're making that change this year, which is awesome. What do you think about that, MG?
Yeah, it's good feedback. I think, you know, if I put my ex-promoter hat on for a moment, when you're in that chair and you're coordinating shows and live events, you're not just always, I know we say in this sport, you know, every federation comes out, it's like, we're all about the athlete, we're all about the athlete. And you know, for the most part they are, but they're also trying to entertain a crowd. So you have to think about, sometimes, you know, a federation might try something because they feel like, hang on, what about if we mix two categories? Then the crowd gets to see, say, the guys, the girls, a smaller physique and a bigger physique. From a crowd perspective, that may be more entertaining, or it may feel like the show's not so repetitive. If you're not a bodybuilding lover, that might be a little easier to watch. And ultimately, you got to remember, you're only going to get feedback really from competitors. No spectators or no person's cousin is going to message the page and be like, hey, I really love the way that you split those two divisions. Even if they were sitting in the crowd and they felt like it was more entertaining because they got to see more athletes, they're never going to say anything. So you're only ever going to kind of hear the negative stuff. That being said, federations try things and sometimes they don't work. A lot what ICN maybe are doing now. But to relate it back to this one, you know, NBA probably just wanted to trial giving a little bit more variety in the style of show. Feedback from the athletes were that they didn't like it. Sounds like they're making a change. So it's all about also being willing to reflect and say, well, maybe this did work and maybe this didn't work, and move forward. But from their point of view, I think it would have just been done to give the crowd a little bit more variety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is not a bad thing, but you're just never going to know if the crowd like that or not. You're only going to hear from athletes.
That's a really good point. All right, let's move into some scenarios. So first-time competitor prepping for Season B this year has only been lifting weights for 2 years, and their coach has told them that they have too much muscle for bikini, but they are worried they won't be competitive for sports and fitness, which is the next ones up. Then she goes and says that her lower body development is lacking, so she's confused on what to do. So sounds like, just reading between the lines, is that maybe her upper body development is pretty decent, lower body is lacking, and the coach is saying, look, you're probably going to be too big for bikini, you might have to move up, but she's a little bit concerned. So MG, have you ever kind of had that conversation, or maybe have to pick, you know, the best of two evils to put someone in, or maybe, you know, you put them across, or maybe modify how you peak or what you do on show day to make things balance out a bit better?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, maybe I'll let you touch on the way we peak differently, but I'll say this: if I'm coaching and I'm in that situation where I feel like I have a competitor who might be on the fence or maybe a little bit one way or the other, a couple of things that I'm always thinking about is, personally, I'd always rather be the slightly bigger athlete in a lineup, because that's going to draw eyes to you 90% of the time. And we've certainly seen some athletes over the years who, as coaches, experienced coaches, we thought, I thought they were a bit big for that division, have come up and won. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be too concerned about going into, let's say in this instance, she said, doing bikini, being a little bit bigger up top, because for most federations, you can do two, right? So NBA, ICN, you can always do bikini and sports. So do both, and that way you get the best of both worlds. But yeah, I think, you know, if I had to make a call and if I was stuck in a federation where I only could do one, I think for me, I would rather be slightly over-muscled in the smaller division than under-muscled in the bigger one, because that really does stand out.
Yeah.
The second thing that I'll say is, and then you can probably get into like being smart about how you peak to change the look. You mentioned in the scenario that they're getting ready for Season B. So they're still a long way out. They're still 30 plus weeks out. And often it's really hard to tell what that end product is going to look like when you're still sitting at, 20% body fat and above. As you get leaner, as you get, 16, 12, 8 weeks out, and you really start to see the lines and the detail, and you've dropped down to a composition you've never been before, you may be surprised that that size that you think you're holding in your upper body that's way bigger than your lower may start to come down a little bit, and all of a sudden you start to look a little bit more symmetrical, or you'll notice your imbalance more, and you and your coach will be able to make a much better decision. It's really, really easy to pick divisions when you're 3 or 4 weeks out. So stay patient, and don't panic if you don't know exactly where you fit right now at 33 weeks. Have a rough idea. It's not like posing is going to be too different anyway, and you can always adjust and adapt as you get closer to the show and the look starts to change.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I think it's always better to be more muscular in a division than less. But you're right. If you move into sports and fitness, you have to be leaner, and you may lose size because you've got body fat there. You may look smaller, but also you may lose some muscle tissue along the way. So what I would recommend is you still got time in your off season before your peak starts. So really hit that lower body as hard as you possibly can, and maybe back the upper body training completely off. If you know you're too big for bikinis, just stop doing it, right? Maybe you only train upper once a week. Everything else is lower body at a different split. And then even in prep, what I would say is if you're going to use like a high-low day format, maybe keep some of your high days on your lower body days so you keep the muscle tissue there, those muscles full, and maybe you don't have to have, high calorie days if you're doing that high-low cycle on your upper body days. So you can maintain any of the growth that you potentially have made in your lower if you think that's lacking in any way. But as you come into the show, we've had people where they're muscular in their upper and they're in bikini. We've said, you're not pumping up your upper body. Do not do anything. No lat raises, no rows for the back, no nothing. Just pump the glutes, pump the glutes, pump the glutes. That's all you got to do. So there's things that you can do on the day so that you don't look exploded in your upper and not so much in your lower. So that would be the recommendation. But you still got more time for the off season to try to push out a little bit more growth and then try to maintain that growth as you move through your prep. But that's a really, really good question, because sometimes you don't fit everything perfectly and you have to kind of see where you fit and make the best of it, for sure. All right, next one. So this is a little bit of a longer one, but I'll try to read it the best I possibly can, and maybe I'll try to summarize a little bit. So does having low body fat affect your ability to build muscle? I competed in October last year. I'm sitting at around about 10% body fat, 59 kilo on around about 3,000 calories. If I miss a meal, get sick or anything like that, my body weight and body fat just plummets straight away. So in her previous off season, she got up to 4,500 calories. She wants to move from fitness to figure, and she's not trying to stay lean at all. She actually wants to progress. She's not attached to being lean. Her being this lean, even so far after her show, is it affecting her ability to build muscle? Because she does want to build to go up to the next division up. What do you think?
Yeah, good information, man. We could dissect this one for ages too. So can I just, did she say 10%?
She's currently at 10%, and she competed in season B last year.
Yeah, well, that's probably the first thing that stands out. And we'll just bounce this one back and forth, man. 10% is super, super lean for a female. So, I wonder what this athlete was on stage, if this is the rebound. It sounds like they haven't put on a ton of composition since their show, because 10% on a DEXA for a female would be top level conditioning virtually. Like, would you say that you've had many, you had some of the best fitness athletes in the country last season? I'd be surprised if 10% on show day was common for most females, right?
Yeah, so I would say them stage lean, they may be cracking 10%, maybe. Like, you remember how lean I was? Like, I was, peeled.
Inside out,
when
for
I
sure.
got a DEXA,
Yeah,
when I got a DEXA, I was 8%.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So, yeah. Anyway, I don't know how she's measured it. Maybe she's measured on one of those like handheld impedance,
Cool.
which sometimes isn't all the way accurate. But look, the number is what it is. She's
For
lean.
sure.
She's still pretty lean for being this far out.
Yeah.
Post comp.
Yeah. Well, I would say, is being lean affecting your ability to get big? It's not the being lean part, right? Metabolically, we're all different. We talk about, the role genetics play in the sport all the time. What I think is your issue is that you have to remember that the things that you can do in the gym when you're a heavier athlete, when you've got a little bit more composition on the body, are night and day. For example, if I use myself during my prep and my off season, if I look at something like an RDL, which I've probably mentioned on this podcast before, is my grindy exercise. When I'm in prep, I find RDL is really taxing. I've got to take really long breaks. If you look at me at off season when I'm 96 or 97 kilos, I'll move 155, 160 kilos, no problems. And I'll walk in the gym ready to tear it apart. I remember my last 6 weeks of prep and 130 just feeling like it was going to steal my life.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to remember that being that lean really doesn't serve any good purpose other than the aesthetic of it. Not to mention for a female, going a little bit deeper than that and looking at things like health markers, biomarkers. How is your gym performance? How is your sleep? Have you had some bloods done? What's your hormone health like? I don't think that being 10% really serves any great purpose above and beyond the look, and understand that you're not trying to be lean, which is a comment. So it's not like you're trying to sit in that position on purpose. But I think if you got up to 4,500 calories last time and you're currently sitting at 3 and nothing's changing, you definitely need to have a look at your nutrition system. And I would be bumping in some food, probably via the way of carbohydrates and fats pretty soon. Also, I don't want you to think that by listening to this, you should go straight from 3 to 4,500 calories, because you want to give your metabolism some time to sort of adapt and catch up. And that probably will result in some pretty rapid fat gain. But I think, definitely with weekly analysis, you probably want to start bumping food up pretty soon, because I can't see any real benefit for you to sit at that composition as a female in the off season. I don't think you're putting yourself in a position to grow the level that you want to grow, speaking that you want to go from fitness up to figure, which is a more muscular division. I think there's some changes that you could make pretty soon that would put you in a much better position.
Yeah, I think being this far removed from the show, we would say that all of our athletes are probably back to their off-season
pretty close to
calories and weight and composition.
Pretty close
right?
to, yeah.
So this person isn't there yet. They should be there by now. So the recommendation would be you need to get there. And as you said, don't do it straight away, like slowly. But the purpose is to build back up to that 4,500 you used to be, and to put that weight back on, and to not be lean anymore. Because even though you may feel good, you may feel like you're strong, you may feel like your energy's pretty good, it can be way better when you've got more composition on you and you're eating more food. So I think you still need to move in that direction of getting back to what you were in your last off season, from a calorie perspective, from a composition perspective, and then maybe even beyond, so that you can get stronger in the gym, train with more intensity, therefore eliciting more muscle growth too. So
yeah,
I think the numbers are the numbers, whether it's 10% on a DEXA or not, or whatever that may be. I think it's the fact that you're not at your off-season calories composition yet is something that needs to be addressed. It should be there by now, for sure, if you're that far post-comp.
Yeah, as like a general approximation that I use when I'm, say, mapping out a competitor's post-comp season plan, something like 16 to 20 weeks as a rough guide is kind of where I have them at a point where they're almost at like a peak off season sort of position from a nutrition standpoint and also a composition standpoint. So, if you look at percentage above body weight, if you're now, you're the best part of 20 weeks post your comp, somewhere 18 weeks or so. And if you're not at least 10% above stage weight, then you're probably behind the marker. Which for this athlete, did you say 59? Did I hear 59?
59 currently. I don't know what her stage weight was,
so
what her weight was in the off season.
Yeah. The reason I say is, like, if the numbers are right and you're 59 now and you're 10% now, what you would have had to be 10% above your stage weight would have been like technically 7% body fat, which I just think is not quite right. So I think, you're a little bit behind the marker in terms of rate of gain post-comp, and also the way your nutrition has been progressed post-comp as well. Yeah,
definitely. I think you held on a good point there too, is get some blood tests done, check your health. Do you have your cycle back? That kind of stuff too. I don't know about you, but some of my leanest competitors in season B they've gotten their cycle back. The ones that did lose it, which was only one or two. So
I absolutely love the part that says, I'm not attached to being lean. I don't need to be lean. So that's a really good place to be in mentally. That's a good association to make. Sounds like you're ready to grow and improve. So so I'd say it's time to get uncomfortable and bump some food up.
yeah, which is the fun part for sure.
Sure.
All right, let's go on to the next one. What is your opinion of people competing only to boost their client base as a PT or coach? I've been noticing a lot of first-time competitors are using this as a platform. What do you think?
It happens all the time, and it's going to continue to happen all the time. I don't think it's right or wrong. I think it's a shitty why, and it's a tough why to stay consistent through what is going to be, if you're a first-time competitor as well, what is going to be a freaking hard journey. What we go through as athletes is, it's enjoyable. Most of us love it, but if you think there's not going to be some crazy challenges along the way, you got another thing coming. So I think if your main why is purely to boost social media following, it's going to be tough. If it's one of your whys, totally fine. Do I think it helps people boost their following? Yeah, I do. I've seen it happen. I've seen lots of competitors compete once and all of a sudden, they've got 10 online clients. And it's like, you just became an online client to Michael Trimboli yourself 20 weeks ago, and now you've got 10 online clients. So does it work? Yes, but I think the why still needs to be bigger than just that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think there's a problem if that you want to increase your client base, that you go and compete to kind of help boost that a little bit. I don't think there's a problem with that. But I think that that's not going to be a strong enough why to get you through the tough times of prep.
Yeah.
I think you need something a little bit more than that, especially if you're a first timer, because you're going to enter waters that you've never been before. And if you're like, I'm only doing this just to get some more follows, get some more clients, things like that. And it might not push you all the way through to the end. The next thing I'd say is don't do a comp to then become a comp prep coach. I think it really requires a little bit more than that. We see it sometimes in the industry is one comp, then they're a comp prep coach, or one comp, then they're opposing coach. So do the right thing. Make sure you educate yourself along the way. Competing is a great way to educate yourself to eventually become a really, really good comp prep coach, but it takes a little bit more time. So that's all good if you want to compete to increase your client base and you're just a lifestyle coach, whatever that may be. And maybe eventually you want to move into comp prep coaching for sure, but just take the required steps to get there. But yeah, I don't see a problem with it. It's just whether your why will be strong enough and it'll get you through the tough times.
And ultimately, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, and you're going to show that your clients and your future clients that, you're willing to practice what you preach. So, there's definitely some benefits to it, but the tough times will catch you out if social media presence is your only kind of big prize at the end. Yeah.
Totally. All right, let's move on to another one. Posing. Has posing ever stopped someone from competing? I'm struggling to understand my poses, and I have a fantastic posing coach, but I'm just unable to grasp the ability to pose. So has anyone ever pulled their prep because they haven't been able to grasp posing?
Not that they've been honest with me about it. But no, look, I think I will put my hand up and say I feel like posing is definitely one of the hardest parts of prep. For a lot of athletes, it's not natural. We've coached some competitors that have, dance backgrounds, walk on stage, pop the heels on and just pick it up in 2 seconds, right? But there's a big percentage of competitors and athletes that just doesn't happen for. I think for me, I've never had an athlete not compete because posing wasn't up to scratch or they didn't feel comfortable. If you've gone through that whole 30-week journey and I was your coach and you felt like posing wasn't your strong suit, but I felt your physique was absolutely ready, I would 100% encourage you to still stand on stage. We've been around long enough and seen athletes with amazing physiques and very, very average / poor posing still win divisions in federations. And I think ultimately the physique will speak for itself. So if you're listening, you're someone who's not confident in their posing, but you are confident in your physique and you feel like, your physique is worthy of being on that stage, still stand on stage. Definitely don't pull out of the prep. But I will say this, your posing should start well before starting prep. Your posing should be at least 2 to 3 times a week at the start of prep. And I'm talking 26 to 30 weeks out, to a point that when you get up to 8 to 12 weeks out, you are giving 10 to 15 minutes at least once a day. if you do all that and you still get to your show and you feel like you don't know your poses, I think maybe something's up. But you don't need to be the world's best poser to win a division. So just back yourself, ask your coach for feedback, work with your posing coaches as much as you can, but don't pull out of a comp if you feel like you're not the best poser.
Yeah. I think it's great that this person has a posing coach. That'll be the most important thing first.
For sure.
And the second thing is, because she's concerned about her posing, I'm sure she's trying to practice it. So I'm sure she's trying to do everything she possibly can to be her best at posing. But as we said, sometimes it doesn't come naturally to everyone. Yeah, maybe you might not be the best poser, but as long as you can pose and present your physique, then you're there. And we've seen, as you mentioned, we've seen average posing still win a division. I would say that some federations look at posing a little bit more, or you have more eyes on you when you're posing. So for instance, NBA has an individual eye walk where all the attention is on you, where you have to walk and you have to pose. So it will show if your posing isn't up to scratch. But if you're in something like an ICN where you all come out together and you're all compared and there's no eyes directly on you and no one else, you might get away with maybe stuffing up your transition or whatever that may be. And as long as you are in your static pose and the judges scan their eyes and they look at all of you and you're in your static pose and you've nailed it at that point, then you're good to go. If you're going to go in something like an FMG WBFF, yeah, there's a lot of posing there. There's a lot, it's very, very different. So I think maybe selecting the federation, if you're not a fantastic poser, maybe something that you need to consider. I actually had a discussion with a client during the week and they hadn't practiced enough posing and they weren't confident. And I said, look, let's actually not put you in that federation. Let's put you in this federation instead, because I think that your posing will be more, or, how well you are posing is going to be better suited to that federation. So we made that change there. I just say, you got a posing coach, that's great. Continue to practice and it should all come together. Even if it's average, it's okay. As long as you hit those static poses and you present your physique, then you're there. All right, a question about creatine. Should creatine be taken only on weight training days? Is there a benefit on taking it every day? I like to use this analogy when I explain creatine to people, is imagine you have a fuel tank and you are using from the bottom, but when you would drink the creatine, you're filling from the top. So the creatine that you're taking in today, you may not use today if your tank is full. So the timing of your creatine doesn't really matter. And also you do need to make sure that you have it every day. So you keep that tank topped up and it doesn't go empty. That's the best way I can kind of explain it from a creatine perspective.
Yeah. I just say to all of my athletes, 5 grams every day. I don't care what time. I encourage them to have it with their breakfast. If it, a lot of them have a smoothie or they have oats. When I have oats for breakfast, I just put my 5 grams in my oats because you don't taste it.
Yeah.
5 grams every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's pretty
simple.
much
Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even like people are like, oh, yeah, I pulled out creatine on 2 weeks out from show because I didn't want to get watery. I was like, no, man, creatine is, the king of intracellular hydration. And if you think about show day, what do you want to be? You want to be hydrated, full muscle bellies. So why would you not want hydrated muscles on show day? So creatine, all 5 grams every day, even when you're on show, even on show day for the rest of your life. Simple.
You touched on a really good point that just triggered my memory. One thing that I suggested and I actually did in my prep is to help me get in all my water for the day is I had 4 1-liter bottles of water in my fridge. And in each bottle, I put my supplements in there. So I sprinkled a little bit of creatine in each one, a little bit of BCAAs, a little bit of all the other supplements that didn't need to be timed. And it forced me to drink because I was like, if I don't drink it, I'm going to waste it. There's money down the drain, right? There's supplements down the drain. So I told this to some other clients too, is if you've got supplements like that that's in your regimen and you're not drinking enough water, put it in your water bottles. It'll force you to drink that water.
You don't want to waste it.
Because you're not going to waste those supplements. Yeah.
I speaking of water, I do 1 4.2 liter a day. This is mine.
Yeah, wow. That's massive.
Mine, it's 4.2 and then fill it up every morning, finish it by the night. And anything else I get above and beyond that, if I have a shake or, whatever I put in my cream of rice or is just accessory.
Yeah.
little bit extra, but
That's awesome. Do you ever have like electrolyte drinks? I've actually got one of these. I was been sipping on it post training. It's a
man,
Powerade Active.
I sometimes do. I actually sometimes do some coconut water, which has calories, and I track and measure it. I like a little bit of coconut water. I never did before competing,
Hmm.
and actually, I never did before kind of working with Scotty. Scotty kind of got me onto it. It is about, I think it's about 13 gram of carb per 250 or 300 mil. So
Hmm.
it's certainly not worthwhile maybe when you're, deep in prep. But I do honestly feel like I feel a difference
Yeah,
when I've had a big day and I have a glass of coconut water before bed. I feel like it really helps me, man, which is
yeah.
obviously loaded with, potassium, the main one, but magnesium. And
It's a bit of
but
salt.
I have had some no sugar Gatorades during training and stuff.
Hmm.
I just feel like the dosage in coconut water is a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm just going down the aisles and these are on special, I'll just buy a couple.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason why heavy alcohol drinkers, swear by coconut water before they have a big session and they smash one before bed, or they have one by their bedside when they wake up.
Yeah,
It's like people think it's the great hangover cure, but it's just to try and rebalance electrolytes a little bit after a
yeah,
big night.
yeah. Thoughts on sugar-free alternatives during prep?
This is going to come up. This one will come up forever. I
Yeah.
think, I don't know if you follow James Smith, but he's put some really, really funny stuff out lately about sugar-free alternatives. And he did one on Coke Zero.
Okay.
And it was obviously a skit and a joke. And he's like, this bottle of Coke Zero, and it basically says, I cannot have this Coke Zero because it has 13 nanomoles of aspartame, whatever it was. I don't know what the measurement is. And then he pulls out like a piece of steak and a vegetable. He's like, this has 300 times the amount of this Diet Coke, but don't have this Diet Coke. It'll kill you. Right? So, the things that people talk about that are in it that are, not good for you, there's a lot of that stuff in foods that you eat every day. No one would even bat an eyelid. And
Hmm.
ultimately, the dosage that you would have to take for what is in that to be like any sort of toxicity to you, you wouldn't be able to stomach that much liquid.
Hmm. Yeah.
So sugar-free drinks, totally fine. I've got no issues with my athlete having sugar-free drinks, 1 or 2 cans a day leading up to prep. The only time that I'll say just be careful is like if there's somebody who's got, a sensitive digestive system and sweeteners cause you bloating or GI distress, then it's not worth it for you.
No.
If you can stomach them, if you can digest them, tolerate them with no problems, as long as you track a couple of calories in each, if you're a macro tracker towards your overall goal, because if you're having 3 cans a day and there's 4 calories, 12 calories can add up if you do it 7 days a week.
Yeah.
There's no issue with it, man. Like people pulling them out 4 weeks out from comp, like you've been drinking them for 4 years and never had an issue. Why 4 weeks out from comp is your body going to go, 4 week mark? If he has
Yeah.
one today, we're going to fuck him up. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't know.
Yeah. 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 I agree. Like,
Yeah.
if you've got no digestive issues with having them, that's perfectly fine. And trust me, people do.
For sure. That's
Especially,
why
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, especially in prep because you get a little more sensitive. And I found some clients are like, actually, I can't have this anymore. Like, it's affecting me and they know it. Also, I would say having a lot of carbonated drinks can also give you bloating. So this is not a sugar-free thing, but like mineral water or carbonated or soda water. I had a client that would take that because it fills them up, but it gave them excessive bloating. I was like, you need to stop drinking that much carbonated water. Like it's just way too much. But
Yeah.
we've spoken about this on the potty also about highly palatable foods. So I would just be mindful if you're going to drown everything in sugar-free maple syrup, there'll be a point where that craving of that highly palatable food may turn into a binge. So just be really, really mindful of those sugar-free alternatives can create food to be really, really tasty, which will then affect your ability to be adherent. So just be mindful. That typical 80-20 rule that we all give out is like, yeah, 20% can be fun stuff. That's perfectly fine. If you're having 2 cans of Coke Zero, a little bit of sugar-free maple syrup on your morning oats, whatever that's perfectly fine. But if you're smashing them every day, and then your regular, meat and veg meal just doesn't cut it from a taste perspective, you're eventually going to go look in the pantry for other things. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, I think that the three of us, including Scotty, we're all big advocates for kind of just keeping prep food pretty simple, right?
Mhm.
If things stay simple, basic, and you don't have things in your plan that are super highly palatable, they tend to be the preps for athletes I see that are the most successful. You and me have a philosophy we used to talk about, which you came up with a long time ago, about how getting into the back end of prep, we like to bro up the meal plan.
Yeah.
And like, you want to explain what that means? It's,
Yeah, for that specific reason, like if you keep it plain and simple and not highly palatable, you can be more focused. Like you could just be like, okay, I'm just going to have this food. It's not going to be highly palatable there. I'm going to be searching for other things. And also, when we talk about eating the same thing every day, our data gets repetitive. There's not any fluctuations in it. So therefore, if we're going to make small adjustments to the diet, we can see a reaction to it.
for sure.
If we're
Yeah.
changing things all the time, then there's too many variables. When
Yeah.
we want to make a dietary adjustment, we may not see, the results of it. It's a little bit too hard to predict. So I just try to keep it really, really plain and simple, especially
Yeah.
towards the back end. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's end on this one. I know this is a broad question, but what are some common mistakes you see in prep? Now, we just spoke about one, highly
Yeah.
palatable food, having too much sugar-free stuff. But is there another one that you commonly see in prep that people are doing?
It's a good question. I think one of the things we see often is around letting your circle, inner and slightly outer, kind of dictate your happiness because they don't understand or appreciate what you're doing or what you're going through, and they can give you a really hard time about the food that you're eating or the events that you're not going to. I think for a first timer, that's a really, really common one. And we've probably spoken about that on 10 episodes. It's there's no easy fix for that other than just to be mindful around who you spend your time with, but also not to take certain comments to heart from people who really don't understand what we do and what we go through and just wouldn't appreciate the end goal. I think a mistake that I see a lot from coaches, if I can speak for coaches, is I think there's a lot of methodology out there which is just to get you through this prep and get you lean. I'm going to make you do more the whole as the prep goes, as you eat less, which is not a great plan. There's going to be periods of doing more and eating less, but there's no thought being put into breaks, rate of loss, how long to push someone for before giving them, a little bit of a break, when you should go aggressive and when you should slow things down. So I think, a problem I see regularly when speaking to new athletes is that there was no forward thinking in the prep. It was just like, well, most people prep for 26, so we'll start 26 out. You're going to do this much cardio this week. Oh, you've plateaued more. Oh, you've plateaued more. And all of a sudden the body just stops responding because, you're doing an hour and 15 cardio a day. Your food is already on 900 calories and you're still 14, 15 weeks out and your body weight just won't move. So I think planning and strategizing at the start of prep as a coach is something that needs a little bit more time.
Yeah, like giving back to the system, like
For sure,
and
man.
we've spoken about that. Yeah,
For sure, yeah.
Actually, we've spoken about even a couple of the common mistakes by talking about trying to eat the same thing every day, trying to be repetitive with your food, don't eat highly palatable food, make sure you practice your posing, make sure you practice it early and frequently, like all those kind of things. I think if I'm not going to use any of those and come up with something totally different, I would say sleep and stress. Really protect your sleep and take it seriously. It will catch up on you and it will show in your physique. So making sure that you looking after your sleep. If you need to take sleep supplements, take them. Make sure that you are doing the best you possibly can to have good quality and good duration sleep. And also stress. Try to manage your stress the best you possibly can. I know it's difficult, but also try to do things that will give back to the system to help you relax and recover and reduce that stress too, because that's going to show in your physique. I think people underestimate when your cortisol is high because you haven't been sleeping and you've been super stressed. No matter what you do with your bloody macros and how much more cardio you have, sometimes the body's like, nah, not doing it. And mine was a perfect example, right? At the end of my prep, even though my mind could go there, I could do more cardio, I could do less calories, I could do whatever I wanted to do. The body said, nah, mate, we've had enough. And I just held water and I was just like, it just wouldn't cooperate no matter what we did. I had to say, that's enough. That's enough prepping for you. We've got to start reversing. So,
no pun intended. Cannot stress how important sleep is, man. Far out. Sleep, good one, man. It's fucking everything. It's everything. I feel like I'm saying, 20 times a week to athletes, need to get sleep up a bit this week, need to get sleep up.
You're right. It's probably one of the more common things that we mention in our check-ins,
Yeah,
honestly. Track your sleep.
undervalued.
Sleep might be something a little bit different for you in the future.
Oh man, as you know, we had a meeting last night, me, you, and Scotty, just working out some stuff for Bali and that, and we got off at after 10 p.m.
Mm.
and I had a 3:50 alarm this morning,
Oh,
so back to back 6 sessions this morning, and I got to say, I've been thinking about my next sleep, which has to be tonight. It's got to be an early one, but I may not have many left that are uninterrupted for a while, so
yeah.
gonna savor everyone, man.
Look after it. Look after
Yeah,
yourself.
we'll
But
do.
it'll all be worth it.
Oh,
All
can't
within
wait, man.
reason.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
All right. We made
Pleasure,
it to the
mate.
end of round two.
Yes, we got there finally.
We finally got there.
Thanks everyone for your patience.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Take
And
care, guys. Have a beautiful weekend.
appreciate it. See you guys.